Back in the day, in the country of Hinomoto, the period of samurai was going well as they were progressing in their lives and building empires. On one bad day, the land of Hinomoto got invaded by creatures from the sky, demons called Kishin. The demon invasion was not expected by any human on Hinomoto, and that led to humankind being pushed back to the point where they had lost most of their territories and were working as underlings for the demons. All hope was not lost yet, as even when the humans were in danger, the samurai blood helped them keep fighting through the time of despair, even when the odds were clearly against them in the form of a force called the Bands of Bushi, who were fighting to the current day. 150 years had passed ever since the world changed for the samurai race, and we get to meet with our protagonist Musashi, who is working in a mine, waiting for the day when he will get to decide his future path. Musashi attends a usual lecture for the miners, and clearly seems to be disagreeing with the information they are being fed with. A little flashback shows how ever since Musashi was a kid, he wanted to be like his adoptive brother, Kojiro Kanemaki, and follow the path of a Bushi warrior. Back at the lecture, the boys get informed about how the time has come when they will be moved to the mine of Master Oni, and while other kids are looking forward to meeting the Oni, Musashi is seen to be fixated on his dream of becoming a warrior. After the class wraps up, Musashi heads back to meet up with his brother Kojiro, and tells him about what exactly his decision is for the future. Despite looking at Musashi's dedication to actually becoming a Bushi, Kojiro tells him not to do that, as this life path comes with its own dangers. Musashi leaves after being seemingly unaffected, and we get to know that the only reason for Kojiro being against the idea is that he worries about Musashi's life getting in danger just because of his Bushi blood. The day of the mine assignment arrives, and all the newbies walk towards the place only to come across the harsh truth that a miner's life is filled with nothing but despair, as they are all supposed to die while working for the demons. Musashi decides not to comply, and despite not having his pickaxe, he starts attacking the demon. Musashi gets caught by the demon after he is in a bad condition, and he shouts out loud about his real dream of becoming a Bushi. And just at that moment, our guy gets saved by his brother, who makes quite the stylish entry on his motorcycle. Kojiro hands over Musashi's pickaxe, and he realizes that his brother is not fooling around when Musashi takes a real Bushi stance to demolish the demon, splitting it in half. Musashi brings his brother to his favor after he cuts down multiple demons in a tag team with him. And just when the siblings were about to have a moment of peace, the emission of a giant red light at a distance indicates the fact that a Kishin has arrived as an obstacle in their way. With all the chaos going on around the two, the brothers take the motorcycle to head straight towards the demon so they can challenge it. While Musashi is seemingly excited to do what a Bushi is supposed to for once, Kojiro seems to be quite against the idea of Musashi following the path of a Bushi. As the two are having a conversation along the way, the kids arrive at the location of the light to find out that the Kishin is a normal-looking demon with just a beak. Musashi easily takes the demon down in a single strike, but the Kishin just regenerates in a single attempt. Just when the brothers thought that dealing with the demon was seemingly easy, the Oni followers arrive at the mine, and they present a stack of stones to the Kishin. The Kishin consumes all the stones and finally turns into a horrifying 6-armed monster, destroying things while transforming. The transformation leads to Musashi falling down on the ground, and Kojiro, who is still landing, gets in serious trouble as Kishin goes after his sword to eat it. Kojiro refuses to let go of his sword as it was given to him by his late father, who told him that this sword is a Bushin's pride. The kid tries his best to keep his valuable sword, but he loses an obvious competition of strength when the Kishin just snatches his sword to swallow it. As Kojiro is still feeling bad about his sword, Musashi, who had somehow gotten back to his feet, decides to retreat the sword since he was aware of its value as well, and starts climbing the abdomen of the demon. Our guy starts hammering the demon's belly with his pickaxe, having a mind full of rage, and succeeds in leading the demon to make his own abdomen weak with missed shots. Musashi lands a final blow to the abdomen that was filled with acids that makes Kojiro worry about losing his brother. Surprisingly, Musashi walks out of the abdomen like a menace as if nothing ever happened, and hands over the sword to Kojiro, who finally has a smile of relief on his face. While our boys were keeping the Kishin busy, the real band of Bushi got the time to pull up at the mine in a flying temple or celestial castle. The leader of the Bushi told Musashi to sit back and relax while they handled the rest of the matter, but the expression did not seem to fit right with Musashi. Kojiro tried to hold his brother back, but the fire inside Musashi's heart to prove his point made Musashi head for the demon to actually kill it for real. The captain of the Bushi named Takeda was about to finish things off quickly, but even he decided to stay back for a moment after seeing the drive Musashi had while he was absolutely demolishing demons to make his way towards the Kishin. As Musashi was trying his best to scale closer to the Kishin, the band of Bushi, who had finally decided to pick the pace up, restrains the demon. One of the Bushi also restrains Musashi on Takeda's orders, and the captain himself tells the young gun to calm down and think twice before gambling his life in this way. The whole lecture turned out to be not that much effective, as Musashi still persisted in fighting the Kishin by himself, since this fight was the first big thing for him in the way of following his dream. Our guy finally breaks through the restraints to jump back into action and closes up on the demon to use a katana technique taught to him by his adoptive father, Jisai. The technique causes the ground to shake and helps Musashi get in proximity to the demon. As our guy is heading to get his first big win, Kojiro, who also couldn't stay back after witnessing Musashi's enthusiasm, reveals the Kishin's weakness of its core to Musashi. With the game plan finally sorted out, Musashi heads forward to destroy the core crystal with a single big blow, but our guy is left in shock when his pickaxe or katana turns out to not be strong enough and breaks into pieces. While Musashi is still in the aftershock, Takeda pulls up yet again and shows the power of the captain of Bushi by basically destroying the crystal in a single blow. Takeda apologizes for stealing Musashi's target right from his hands, remarking that he has his own reason to kill the Kishin as well. After its core was destroyed, the demon soon disintegrates, and its energy gets absorbed by the whole Bushi band, increasing their power further. The event of destruction wraps up, and Takeda announces his plans to restore the honor of humanity after restraining the Oni followers in the mine. Takeda and the crew are praising the boys, when, despite trying his hardest to hold himself back, Musashi ends up revealing his true feelings of anger towards the band for getting in the way of his dreams. Takeda makes fun of the whole thing and decides to give Musashi a purple crystal as a gift for stealing his prey. The hectic day ends, and the boys are back at their place wondering about what exactly was Takeda's intention behind the crystal. After fooling around for a bit, Musashi finds out that the crystal is just a kaleidoscope that presumably leads towards the location of Kishin on the unified land, and some further investigation finally clears out the real reason behind Bushin's struggle for all these years to the boys. After he had figured the real motive out, Musashi heads out to have a chat with Takeda again, who was still at the village, and reveals that he knows that Takeda just wants to reunite the whole country. Takeda gets impressed, but still warns Musashi about the dangers of the game, but our guy shuts him down, claiming that he still has a chance, since despite trying for 150 years, the Bushi have not reached the end goal yet. Musashi manages to make an impression on Captain Takeda, and with the encouragement of the whole band of Bushi, our boys decide to take their motorcycle and finally head to the vast country outside the little village they grew up in for the sake of pursuing their dreams. The journey for the boys begins when they are full of optimism and reassure each other that they will not argue or fight with each other over anything. A few days passed, and as their resources started to decrease, the boys started to realize that this journey clearly will not be as smooth as they might have been expecting. After the two had completely run out of things to eat on the 5th day, the boys sat down at the riverbank where Kojiro made Musashi mad after flexing his samurai survival skills. Musashi returns to eat together after getting his head clear and finds an injured Kojiro on the ground. Musashi also gets jumped by the same girl who had injured Kojiro, and she starts asking Musashi for something called kitetsu after pinning him down. The girl turns out to be quite delusional, as Musashi easily counters her techniques and even successfully evades every single one of her attacks, which leads to her switching approaches. The change of approach still turns out to be quite naive for Musashi, which makes the girl get actually serious and pull out some sort of twin dagger weapons. The showdown suddenly gets interrupted when the girl flees with a lot of worry on her face after hearing a blow of a horn. our boys decide to chase the girl as she had taken their motorcycle. The girl is revealed to be worried about upsetting the lord of her area, and her relationship seems to be quite nice and wholesome with the lord. While all this was going on, the boys had managed to reach the girl's camp, which turned out to be a similar temple or castle to the Bushi's, labeled as Kosameda Band. The two head in to be greeted by the same girl from earlier, who is quite hospitable to them this time, and offers to show the guys around the area. The area inside the temple is revealed to be as large as a small village, and the girl, whose name is Tsugumi, seems to be quite the cheerful soul. She basically gets along with everyone in the village. Tsugumi sits down to have a conversation with Musashi, where she remarks how it must be nice to have a family, and reveals that her family had died in an accident. The conversation is interrupted when the boys alongside Tsugumi are invited by the lord to a feast, and the situation was going all too well until the boys revealed that they had no clue about what a kitetsu is to the lord of Kosameda. The reveal changed the whole vibe of the feast, as the lord suddenly showed his terrible side and made Tsugumi detain the boys for the time being. After the guys have been detained, Tsugumi attends a little conversation with the lord where his sudden switch in behavior leaves us surprised. The guy is revealed to be a horrible person who belittles his adopted daughter Tsugumi at every single chance he gets, while Tsugumi just accepts every single one of his orders out of fear. After the Lord's meeting wraps up, we meet the boys again who are having a random chat in the prison, where they are approached by Tsugumi, who had clearly cried a lot. The three get into a conversation again, where Tsugumi reveals that the kitetsu are basically weapons made of demon bodies, and the Kosameda needs them to fight the wild demon that is approaching them. While Tsugumi was explaining all this, Musashi remarks how she clearly is trying to hold back what is in her heart, leading to the poor girl to run away after remarking that she just wants the villagers to be safe. Some time passes, and the wild Ani is shown to be approaching the town, when back at the confinement cell, Kojiro manages to somehow reach the key and get out of the cell. The boys are running around on the walls of the castle when they finally find their steel horse and are planning to escape after getting their weapons, when the sight of the wild Oni makes them stop. Back to Tsugumi, the girl ends up running into the lord, whose name is actually Hideo Kosameda, who tells her about the approaching danger and orders Tsugumi to lead the townspeople into fighting for the castle of Konameda, as it should be valuable for them. Tsugumi is seemingly reluctant to the idea of basically telling innocent people to throw their lives for the sake of the Lord, and she finally decides to speak up for herself after remembering the words of Musashi from earlier on. Even though Tsugumi tells Hideo that she cannot use her influence on the people to make them do something like this, the Lord reveals his sadist side and threatens the poor girl to throw her from the castle if she won't do as he says. Tsugumi gives in to the threat after a little pressure, and is later trying to make up her mind to go against the Lord while remembering her late sister in front of an old portrait. She tries her best to get some confidence by stabbing the portrait of the Lord, but her past traumas and fear inflicted by the cruel man stop her. She still gives it another go, and just when she feels like she will not be able to do this, the boys pull up through the portrait after breaking the wall, telling Tsugumi to come with them instead. Musashi encourages the depressed Tsugumi and helps her in regaining some of her confidence before the three leave on their steel horse. While the girl was making up her mind, the Lord is revealed to be at the front side of the castle, where he was telling the people to take weapons and fight the Oni. And just when the Lord was trying to push the townspeople too hard, that give our boys the time to take the guards down. Tsugumi tries to encourage the people to leave towards safety, but the fear of Hideo turns out to be too much for them as well. More guards arrive, and while the boys try to hold them back, Tsugumi decides to settle the matters with Hideo in a duel. She initially attacks Hideo with everything she got, but just ends up getting badly beaten up. Hideo kept attacking the girl even when she was down, but just when everyone thought that Tsugumi was done, she spitted blood on Hideo's face to create some distance, and afterwards her emotions led to her kitetsu receiving a power-up that was something similar to the one Takeda of Bushi Band had. With her new powers, Tsugumi manages to defeat and hold Hideo down, finally lighting enough fire in people's hearts to run away for their lives. The town people do manage to get to a safe distance, and they start worrying about Tsugumi's life, who was still holding Hideo down. At the castle, as the Oni was quite close, Tsugumi had realized that it was too difficult for her to run away now, and she did accept her fate on the surface, but deep down in her heart, the girl had the will to live life a little more. When everything in the surroundings were seeming to be filled with darkness for Tsugumi, a ray of hope for her arrived in the face of Musashi, as he held her hand to successfully rescue Tsugumi while telling her just how impressive her act from earlier was. The catastrophe of the Oni finally passes by, and even though the whole town was left in debris, the people seemed a lot more joyful when they were before. Even though Tsugumi had mustered up some courage earlier, she turns out to be crying as the elders of the town are asking her to leave the band, since if she comes across Hideo now, it won't be good. Even though Tsugumi was initially reluctant to the idea, she agreed for the moment, telling everyone that she will be packing her stuff before she leaves. The emotional little girl turns out to be crying yet again at night when she is approached by Musashi, who consoles her and tells her about how it's natural for her to feel bad about this matter. Musashi's words seem to have affected Tsugumi's heart, as the next day arrived with the departure of the boys with Tsugumi alongside, as they all were looking forward to the adventures awaiting them.